Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Eternal Atake by Lil Uzi Vert. Lil Uzi Vert has teased towards the release of this album for about 3 years now, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people this album was not bound to come out, mainly because there was a bit of a situation with Lil Uzi Vert announcing 2 years ago or something that he would retire out of the music scene, that he wouldn't make more music anymore. But fortunately, quickly after this point, he still released tracks, but it wasn't still necessarily certain if this album was ever going to come out because there were lots of promises under the project Eternal Atake. And Lil Uzi Vert is a rapper who I have followed some of his previous works, but I can't say that I really enjoy anything he has put out so far. I think he has some nice moments here and there, but never really something that would really intrigue me. Although I can appreciate the massive success of his track X or 2 Live, a track that at first I was like, no, I don't get the hype behind it, but now I can at least appreciate it and get it why this track is considered one of the best in the scene of Emo Rap, with its delivery, with its sort of sad tune, its vocal presence. I still don't really love that song, but I can at least appreciate it more compared to when I listened to it the first time, which was a track that was put up in his first commercial debut album, Love is Rage 2, after a series of various mixtapes that he has done in the past, which in my opinion they were not that good. So as far as I don't care for Lil Uzi Vert's music, I think that his retirement in such a young age, after showing that much potential and getting that popular, it was something unfortunate. So as far as I'm not the hugest fan of Lil Uzi Vert, I'm glad that he's back in the game, making more music and doing what he loves. And honestly, I get into Eternal Atake without having that many expectations. And one of the things that I would say that drove me back to it is the fact that this album is really long. It is 18 tracks. It contains more than an hour of material. And I was like, why? Why does this have to be such a bloated album? And the unfortunate thing is that this is kind of the case. There are so many tracks that sort of have the same feel to them, and so there are some moments that feel just unnecessary. But truth be told, getting into this album, I actually enjoyed it much more than I would expect. And I can easily say that this is my favorite project from Lil Uzi Vert. This hype and this wait actually paid off, and I'm pleasantly surprised with this release. Now, of course, we're not talking about like an amazing trap album that it's going to reinvent the game or something like that, because, like I said, there are two major flaws with this album that still hold it back. The one of it I already mentioned. It's about the length of this album. This is bloated. It definitely didn't need to be that much of a long album. There could be tracks that could have been cut off and we would have a better album. Then the second main issue with this album is the delivery from Lil Uzi Vert himself. As far as I like that in this album he's more expressive and more animated than ever, he has some of the craziest and some of the most intense deliveries. There are so many tracks, especially on the first half, where he just raps off beat. It sounds disconnected and at times it gets annoying. And all of those weak deliveries are actually attached into some very good instrumentals. The instrumentals on this thing are very good. Granted, there were so many other moments and projects from Lil Uzi Vert where there were some nice instrumentals, but definitely in this project with Eternal Atake, I think he has some of the greatest instrumentals ever in his career. And the first half has a more of a banging feel to it, with tracks like Lomain, Silly Watts and Pop having some very nice, punchy and really trap-esque banging instrumentals. This album in a sense feels like this psychedelic approach Playboi Carti took with his album Die Lit, an album where Playboi Carti showed his most expressive self over some very nice instrumentals. So Eternal Attack in a sense feels like this album, and instead I would say that some of the instrumentals in this album are even more memorable. But what ruins them for being even better is some of the very weak deliveries from Lil Uzi Vert. Because the thing is that it feels like there has been so much effort into some of those beats. At least that's what it sounds like. The sound of some of those instrumentals is really good. So this makes me curious. Why is there such low effort in the vocal side of things? Why couldn't just Lil Uzi make another take? Or why didn't the producers just try to make the vocals to actually fit a bit more with the beats attached to them? Because it really distracts from the whole experience. This is a huge problem with tracks like Low Main and Silly Watts, which I like the instrumentals, but the vocals and the rapping being offbeat sort of ruin this. But the biggest and the greatest example of this is with the track Pop. I like the instrumental to this thing, but God, what's with these vocals and those rapping and some of those repeated segments, yeah, after a while, this track gets really annoying, like yeah, this is an annoying track. Also, the instrumental to the track You Better Move, it's one of the better ones, really spacey, sort of industrial, very, very cool beat, but this hook, oh, you better move. Oh, you better move. Not one of the worst ones, but the track gets really repetitive with its hook. It is repeated lots and lots of times. And there are segments to this track as well that they feel offbeat, and I'm just like, why? But at least this track is not as annoying as Pop. It is a far better moment, instrumentally wise and vocally wise. After this point is where I think we have a more balanced side of Lil Uzi Vert. He goes a bit more to his trap and pop rap oriented sound, not so many like heavy bangers. We see more to the vocal front of Lil Uzi Vert, and in this album it works actually really well with some very nice hooks and definitely a more balanced connection of vocals and instrumentals, and some of them just being at least on beat. The track Homecoming is one of the first examples of a fairly balanced song. Very good instrumental, and it goes a bit more to the banging side of things, but it's definitely one of the best moments in the album, and actually one of my favorite Lil Uzi Vert songs, like ever. I'm not just a huge fan of lots of the tracks he has been into, but this one is very solid. The second half mainly contains softer tracks, but the issue is that when you have such a big album where the first half is not even that promising, you get into the second half, and even if you send some better vocal delivery, there is so much of a big space in such a long and bloated album that you just can't resonate or memorize lots of the moments in the second half, since the tracks don't hit as hard and some of the instrumentals feel slightly more lackluster. But with that being said, I'm actually surprised that the album ends in a very high note, actually the highest note I could possibly expect. The track Venetia has one of the most memorable and catchiest choruses, even if lyrically wise is a kind of an awful and really silly track. but I mean, when it comes to lyrics, I don't expect that much from Lil Uzi Vert. There are so many moments in this album where lyrically I just don't care of it. But easily, my biggest highlight out of everything, and like everything, Lil Uzi Vert has put out is their track Secure the Bag. Amazing instrumental to this, has a very nice spacey industrial feel to it. I like this beat a lot, and the delivery from Lil Uzi Vert is one of his best in my opinion. Very nice chorus. I don't care if it gets a bit repetitive at times. I don't care if he mostly raps in one certain flow, because there is a very nice change up on this in the second half where he has some of his best vocal expressions. I would never expect I would like a track from Lil Uzi Vert that much, but this is the time. This is an amazing song from Lil Uzi Vert, and I'm really happy I ended up giving this album a shot because, while this track, I've been addicted to this song more than anything else. Finally, the track P2 is a very interesting alternate version of his most famous track, Exor to Life, and we also have another case where the two bonus tracks are two of the main singles he has released, teasing towards the album. I don't get why he does this, as actually these two bonus tracks are actually two of the best tracks I've heard from Lil Uzi Vert. I like this synth in the track Future Shuffle 2020, and the track that way has a really nice mellow feel with this very beautiful chorus to it. So I would like to see those tracks just being somewhere in the track listing rather than just being two bonus tracks, because they're two of the better moments. So yeah, with that being said, the album is long. There are some annoying moments with Lil Uzi Vert where he just can't rap on beat, or his delivery is just so expressive and so wacky to the point where it doesn't even sound that good. But I can definitely say that this is his best work in terms of instrumentals, and even vocally wise, with some of the tracks on the second half, even if it also contains some of the less memorable moments. But at least the album ends on a high note with the final tracks. And so, with that being said, despite the major flaws on this album, I was actually pleasantly surprised with this release. I wouldn't expect it, but there are moments that I enjoy a lot in this album, and this is easily my favorite project from Lil Uzi Vert. I'm going to give Eternal Atake a 6 plus out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.